4:47 a.m., Joint Base Andrews, Maryland. November 14th. The parking lot outside Building 1440 is empty except for 6 unmarked Chevrolet Suburbans and a mobile tactical operations van. Engines off. Lights dark. 15 federal agents sit in near total silence, earpieces in, eyes fixed on a single door at the southeast corner of a nondescript concrete annex attached to the base's logistics coordination wing. They've been here since 2 a.m. The man they are waiting for holds a top-secret security clearance. He has served in the United States military for 23 years. He has deployed to 4 combat zones, earned a Bronze Star, and received 2 commendations from the Secretary of Defense. He oversees a logistics portfolio worth $1.4 billion annually, directing the movement of military assets, medical supplies, and sensitive materials across 3 continents. His name is Colonel Raymond S. Decker, and in approximately 40 minutes, he will be arrested for running the largest drug trafficking operation ever uncovered inside the Department of Defense. This is not the story anyone expected, not the agents who first pulled at the thread 18 months earlier, not the prosecutors who assembled a case spanning 4 judicial districts, and certainly not the 57 other individuals, military officers, civilian contractors, freight operators, and cartel intermediaries, who woke up that same morning to the sound of federal agents breaking down their doors. The investigation that led to Building 1440 did not begin with Colonel Decker. It did not begin at the Pentagon. It did not even begin with drugs. But it began with a shipping container, May 2023, Port of Houston, Texas. Customs and Border Protection officers conducting a routine secondary inspection on an inbound container from Cartagena, Colombia flagged anomalies in a shipment manifested as industrial water filtration equipment. The weight was off, not by a small margin. The container weighed 4,200 pounds, more than its declared cargo should have allowed. Inside, behind 6 pallets of legitimate filtration housings, agents discovered 47 sealed PVC cylinders packed with crystalline methamphetamine and pressed fentanyl tablets. Total weight, 387 kilograms. Street value, approximately $14.6 million, a significant seizure by any measure. But what made this container different? What turned a single drug bust into an 18-month federal investigation, was the shipping paperwork. The consignment had been routed through a Department of Defense logistics corridor. The bills of lading bore routing codes assigned exclusively to military supply chain operations. The receiving entity was listed as a subsidiary procurement office affiliated with U.S. Southern Command Support Operations. Someone inside the military had opened a lane, a clean, documented, virtually unquestioned lane through which cargo moved under the implicit protection of the Department of Defense. Within 72 hours, a joint task force was assembled. FBI Counterintelligence, DEA Special Operations Division, the Defense Criminal Investigative Service. Naval Criminal Investigative Service provided supplementary support. The operation was designated Iron Corridor. The first question was straightforward. Who had the authority to create those routing codes? The answer led investigators up the chain of command faster than anyone anticipated. The codes traced to the Logistics Coordination Directorate at the Pentagon, a mid-level but operationally critical office responsible for synchronizing military freight movements with allied and contracted shipping networks. Access to the routing system that generated those specific codes was restricted to fewer than 40 individuals. Forensic analysis of the system's access logs, conducted over 6 weeks by a dedicated FBI cyber forensics team, narrowed the field. The codes used on the Houston container had been generated from a single authenticated terminal. That terminal was assigned to the office of Colonel Raymond S. Decker. Investigators did not move on Decker immediately. They understood what they were looking at. A case of this magnitude, inside the Pentagon, involving a decorated senior officer, required airtight construction. One procedural misstep, one premature disclosure, and the entire network would scatter. So they watched. What they found over the following 14 months was staggering in its scope. Its audacity and its systematic exploitation of military infrastructure designed to defend the nation. Decker had not stumbled into drug trafficking. He had engineered it, meticulously. Over a period investigators now believe spans at least 5 years. The operation worked like this. Decker exploited his authority over logistics routing to embed narcotics shipments within the vast flow of legitimate military cargo, moving between South America, the Caribbean, and the continental United States. Containers carrying drugs were assigned authentic military routing codes, given priority clearance designations, and slotted into shipping schedules alongside genuine defense materiel. At U.S. ports of entry, these containers bypassed standard customs inspection protocols because they moved under Department of Defense manifests. Mr. documents that, by interagency agreement, received expedited and often cursory review. The drugs entered the country hidden in plain sight, wrapped in the flag. Financial investigators running parallel to the operational surveillance uncovered the money architecture. Decker had established a network of 7 shell companies registered in Delaware, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Nashmi Oswali states with minimal corporate transparency requirements. These entities, bearing names like Ridgeline Strategic Solutions and Meridian Global Freight Partners, existed on paper as defense consulting firms and logistics subcontractors. In reality, they were laundromats. Bank records obtained through sealed warrants revealed that over $47 million had flowed through these entities in 4 years. Funds moved in structured deposits carefully kept below federal reporting thresholds. $8,000 here, to $9,500 there. Routed through 17 different financial institutions before landing in offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Panama. Decker's personal finances told their own story. On a colonel's salary of approximately $130,000 per year, he had acquired a $2.1 million waterfront property in Annapolis, Maryland, registered in his wife's maiden name, a 42-foot sailing yacht moored at a private marina in the Chesapeake Bay, a vacation home in Costa Rica purchased through one of the shell entities. 3 luxury vehicles, including a $187,000 Porsche Taycan, titled to Ridgeline Strategic Solutions. None of this had triggered a single red flag within the Department of Defense's internal financial disclosure system. The network beneath Decker was extensive and deliberately compartmentalized. Their investigators identified 3 active-duty military personnel, 2 Army logistics specialists and 1 Air Force cargo handling supervisor, who facilitated the physical movement of containers at key transit points. They were paid between $15,000 and $40,000 per shipment in cash, delivered through intermediaries they never met. 7 civilian defense contractors participated in creating false manifests, fabricated requisition orders, and fraudulent end-user certificates that gave the shipments their veneer of legitimacy. These individuals worked for firms holding active Department of Defense contracts, meaning they had passed background checks and held security clearances. On the distribution side, DEA surveillance identified connections to cells operating in Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, and Phoenix. The wiretap evidence captured Decker communicating with cartel intermediaries through encrypted messaging platforms, using coded language referencing, equipment transfers, and maintenance schedules. Voice analysis and metadata confirmed his identity on 14 separate intercepted communications. The cartel connection traced to a faction of the Sinaloa organization operating out of Cartagena, the same city from which the original flagged container had shipped. Decker, investigators determined, had first made contact with cartel logistics operatives during a 2018 deployment to U.S. Southern Command in Doral, Florida, a posting that gave him both the relationships and the system knowledge to construct the pipeline. By autumn of the following year, the task force had mapped the entire network. 58 individuals across 9 states, 2 foreign countries, and 4 branches of the federal government's defense apparatus. The evidence portfolio comprised over 40,000 intercepted communications, 1,200 financial transaction records, physical surveillance logs spanning 11 months, and forensic data extracted from 14 digital devices. The total volume of narcotics confirmed to have moved through Decker's corridor, 2.1 metric tons, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cocaine, enough fentanyl alone, according to DEA calculations presented in court filings, to deliver a lethal dose to over 30 million people. The decision was made. Operation Iron Corridor would execute simultaneously across all locations in a single coordinated strike. November 14th, 5:23 a.m., Colonel Raymond S. Decker exits his black government sedan in the parking lot of Building 1440, carrying a leather briefcase and a coffee from the base commissary. He is wearing his Army combat uniform. His rank insignia catches the overhead security light. He makes it 11 steps from his vehicle. FBI special agents wearing tactical vests with federal agent markings converge from 3 directions. The arrest is swift, controlled, and without resistance. Decker says nothing. He is handcuffed, read his rights, and placed in an unmarked vehicle. His briefcase is seized. Inside, agents will later find a burner phone containing encrypted messages sent less than 12 hours earlier, discussing an incoming shipment scheduled to arrive at the port of Savannah within the week. Across the country, the coordinated takedown unfolds in near-simultaneous waves. In Houston, DEA agents raid a warehouse in the Ship Channel Industrial District, recovering 340 kilograms of methamphetamine in vacuum-sealed bricks stacked inside false-bottomed cargo pallets. In Atlanta, 3 civilian contractors are arrested at their homes before dawn. In Phoenix, a cartel distribution cell is dismantled in a tactical operation involving 40 agents and local SWAT support. In Chicago, financial records are seized from an accounting firm that had been processing payments for 2 of Decker's shell companies. By 9 a.m. Eastern, all 58 targets are in federal custody. The indictments, unsealed in the Eastern District of Virginia, run to 147 pages. Charges include conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, conspiracy to commit money laundering, but fraud against the United States, misuse of government resources, bribery, and violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. For Decker specifically, additional charges of espionage-adjacent conduct were considered but ultimately not filed. Prosecutors determined the trafficking charges alone carried sufficient weight for a potential life sentence. At the press conference announcing the arrests, the Deputy Attorney General stood at the podium and delivered a statement that stripped away any ambiguity about the government's assessment of what had occurred. Colonel Decker did not merely betray his oath. He weaponized the trust placed in him by the American people and the Department of Defense to funnel poison into American communities. He used the very systems designed to protect this nation as a delivery mechanism for substances that kill tens of thousands of Americans every year. This office will pursue the maximum penalties available under law. The DEA administrator, standing alongside representatives from the FBI and DCIS, added a single line that would be replayed across every major news network that evening. This is the most significant case of military-linked drug trafficking in the history of the United States. The aftermath sent shockwaves through the defense establishment. The Department of Defense initiated an emergency review of all logistics routing protocols and access controls. Congressional oversight committees demanded classified briefings. The Inspector General opened parallel investigations into how Decker's financial disclosures had gone unscrutinized for years. Victim impact statements, submitted during pre-sentencing proceedings, filled 3 volumes. Families from communities in 4 states described the devastation of fentanyl. Children lost, parents buried, neighborhoods hollowed out by addiction and overdose. One mother from suburban Atlanta, whose 19-year-old son died from a fentanyl-laced pill, traced through DEA evidence to Decker's supply chain, addressed the court directly. He wore a uniform that was supposed to mean something. My son trusted that uniform. We all did. Decker's co-conspirators began pleading guilty in waves. Cooperation agreements were reached with 11 defendants who provided testimony further corroborating the scope and duration of the operation. The 2 military logistics specialists received sentences of 12 and 15 years respectively. Civilian contractors faced sentences ranging from 8 to 22 years. Colonel Raymond S. Decker, after a 4-week trial in which he mounted a defense claiming he was conducting an unauthorized intelligence operation, was found guilty on all counts. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. He was sentenced to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Here's what Operation Iron Corridor revealed beyond the courtroom. The systems designed to move the machinery of national defense are vast, complex, and built on trust. That trust, but when exploited by someone positioned at the right node in the network, creates vulnerabilities that no algorithm or audit can fully close. 2.1 metric tons of narcotics moved through channels that were never supposed to be questioned. 58 people enabled it. 1 man architected it from inside one of the most secure institutions on Earth. The investigation is formally closed. The sentence has been handed down. The reforms are underway. But the question lingers, and it should linger. If it happened once inside the Pentagon, under the watch of multiple oversight bodies, with a decorated officer at the helm, consider what else might be moving through the corridors of trust that remain, right now, unexamined.